All right. Well, I'm Joe, and I sing and play guitar and a bit of keyboard. Um,
My name's Jai. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. We kind of share roles a bit throughout the live process and sort of write all over the place between us. Yeah, and then Sean and Thorn, bass and drums, production between. Yeah, we all write together. We do all the music in-house, so it's all...
we've all been like in each other's lives for more than 10 years. Basically, we all met at school. We went to the same school in Mullumbimby, Australia, which is where we are right now, actually. And yeah, we've just kind of been a big part of each other's lives and fused together with the music that we make throughout that time as well.
So that's super inspiring, honestly, because I'm in school right now. And I mean, like, this is pretty much a startup media company. So that's super inspiring to me. Extremely.
Yeah.
So, you know, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I guess you could say, to start right away, what is the story behind Can't Buy the Mood? Because personally, amazing album, by the way. Amazing. Literally, I listened to it and right away I had to contact you guys because I just had to. This is just, it was great. But yeah, like, what inspired you guys, like, to create the album? Like, what is the creative process, I guess you could say?
I think we draw inspiration from every element of our lives. So it's not just music. It's the way we feel. It's the things that we go through. It's the places that we see. It's the people that we spend our time with. All of the things that we're exposed to have an impact on the sounds that we end up creating. And that's why we kind of hold our creation very close to ourselves. And that's why the music sounds the way it does. It kind of tends to move around a lot. I think that reflects us as people, but also the combination of us as people, because you've got to juggle 4 lives who all have commitments in different parts of the world. And the thing that kind of ties us together is the creative process and the music that we're making. It creates this bond.
Right.
And so I'd say the inspiration for Can't Buy the Mood came from everything that happened to us over the time we were writing the record. And sometimes we were in the same places, sometimes we were spread across the world, but we didn't stop writing over those 2-3 years. Some of the songs actually are even older than that. Some of them we wrote back in 2015, started writing, and reworked them again and again and again until they reached their final form. But the message behind the album, or the name of the album at least, and the theme of the album is basically just to can't buy the mood, meaning not to get too caught up in money and fame and power, and realize that those things can't create you happiness. You have to actually earn happiness through fulfillment and
Exactly.
connecting with the people that you love and finding new people to love. So that's kind of where it all came from, I guess. Maybe you guys have something to add.
No, you're good. You covered it pretty nicely.
No, yeah, honestly, that was perfect because that's exactly what I got from it too. Like, yeah, that was the entire time. Especially, I thought the album was very, in a sense, I guess you could say vulnerable, but I feel like it was just more so honest. Like, you guys were just straight up about your feelings, and you just can't buy the mood. Like, money doesn't bring you happiness, you know? It's just, you have to bring the happiness yourself. So it was very emotional, and I kind of like that because not a lot of artists are actually doing that, and we actually need that. So it was like perfect. So yeah, and that actually ties into the other question, because I said in today's day and age, not a lot of artists are willing to be as vulnerable, and how you guys were in the album. What is your take on being vulnerable and honest artists?
I reckon it just comes down to like your creative process. I think a lot of bands
or a lot of bigger bands at least, they're bringing in outside producers, they're bringing other people. There's a lot of A&R that happens, and it sort of like dilutes what the essence of the music actually is. And one of I guess one of the gifts that we have is we have a team that allow us to actually make the music that we want to make. So there is a little bit of feedback, and sometimes I offer some opinions and advice, but ultimately the end result is like very, very close to what we really wanted it to be. It never like deviates too far.
The ideas always start from one of us, whether that's like, because bringing out, sometimes we have worked with external producers and writers, and that can also be valuable.
It can,
but ultimately, the ideas and like the kind of reason for making a song stems from one or all of us. Like, there's never been a song that someone else has brought and ended up being solely, like, I guess a lot of projects out there people don't realize, but music doesn't always come from the performing artist. Often there's a lot of collaboration involved from all angles, and I think that's very important. To make something feel complete, you need feedback from all kinds of people. But for us, we've always felt that the lion's share of the creation needs to come from us in order for it to feel like our music, and in order for it to be the message that we're actually truly feeling and wanting to project.
Exactly. Especially as a collective, pretty much. That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
And I think back to your question about vulnerability, that's where it kind of ties in, is that the only way that we're able to be vulnerable is by being authentic and actually truly talking about things that we connect with ourselves.
Yeah, and I realized that, especially throughout the album, another thing that was also, I guess you could say you guys were being honest with, is just self-realization. It was a big point, especially in love, money, and just personal, just life as a whole, I guess you could say. So what pushed you guys to like put yourself out there like that? If that makes sense.
I think
we've always, I think we kind of always have written like that. I mean, do you mean in terms of the subject or in terms of the actual writing style and the?
Whoa!
You feel
wow,
has
both.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in terms of subject, the album, regardless of its name, is quite broad. I think there's topics that sort of weave throughout it, but there's definitely a broad spectrum. It's not all, interrelated in terms of in relation to the name, but yeah, I think about trying to be honest in lyrics, it's an interesting one, because often we will write melodies and then find something that, we'll write a melody and it might not even have lyrics.
But it's all interrelated though, because you throw these sounds at a microphone.
Yeah, well, I'm getting to that. So
yeah.
basically, when you when you write a melody and that comes straight from you without a whole lot of
it's the truth.
You analyzing what you're gonna say, and then you kind of find these words that you feel something, and you put them, you actually record those. That is sometimes one of the best examples of what is honesty, in my opinion, even though it's not always too thought out.
I think often you find that when you're not trying to think about what you're saying, and you just get a microphone and you just splurt out whatever comes to your head, there'll just be sounds. But then when you listen back, you listen closer, and you start to actually hear something that makes sense to what you're feeling. And then you realize that there's like a message coming out of you that you didn't even anticipate. Like, it's like channeled through you or something. Like, it's this weird moment where
just let it all out.
All the pieces to this puzzle are actually in front of you, and you're just realizing that all you have to do is put them together. And there's something that's the thrill of the creation, is when you realize that that's happened, and there's just this little thing that came through you without you even trying, or without you even knowing how you did it. Suddenly there's that moment of inspiration, and then you're hooked on that song, and you just work it and refine it until it's where it needs to be. That is the the essence of like what makes the whole thing enjoyable, I think, is those moments of like realization in the creative process.
Was there a certain song on the album that made you guys feel like it was complete?
The album was complete.
Yeah, like one of the songs that just made you feel like, oh, it's done.
Well, I'd say
like
it's probably the last song, which is Entropy.
Yeah,
it's the final track on the album, I think.
Because we had all these songs, and we're like, we need something that's not a song, like something that's just weird and just to like tie the whole thing up. And that moment was, I guess, when we finished up Entropy, we were like, we've got enough songs for a record now.
It's pretty interesting because, I mean, there was one lyric that really touched me. I think it was in Paramount. Yeah, wait, I wrote it down. Yeah, you guys said, out with the good, in with the bad. Sometimes I think I prefer to be sad. In the darkness, jump in a pool, water's cool. Deep and it's blue. I'm just a fool. Am I drowning? And honestly, I was literally thinking the entire time, like, what can I ask them about this lyric? Because this just opens your heart. Like, it's
I think what it is for me, what it means to me is like not to be afraid of sadness and not to treat it like a bad thing, because like happy or sad, they're both just feelings. And you can also find comfort in either feeling, and you don't need to feel bad for feeling sad. You just and that was kind of an acknowledgement that through sadness you actually learn things. And so I guess that was just everybody has their sides, and that to me was kind of just like, sometimes it's okay to also feel sad, not get stuck in it and bring everybody down with you, but it's okay to like, it's actually a good thing when something sad happens. It means that you're human if you feel sad.
Exactly.
And there's a comfort to that, in my opinion. Yeah.
That's literally perfect. That literally just encompassed everything. So the cover art and visuals are so simplistic and satisfying, as well as we also realized the Spotify displays. Was there a certain visual aesthetic that you guys were specifically going for in regards to the cover art and videos? Because I also saw on your profile that you guys did them yourself as well.
Yeah.
So
we're kind of pretty Wes Anderson sort of Tarantino kind of vibe. Like we liked just the use of color and also minimalism. It was we just sort of wanted to incorporate some more live, human, organic elements into the shoot, because as you may be aware, like all of the artwork we've done previously was just that. It was artwork. You know, we never sort of featured our faces.
Yeah.
Most people didn't know that we were a band until this album.
Yeah. I think we want to have fun with it as well, like the costumes, like safari and dressed up in suits and all that sort of stuff. It was kind of just to have, I don't know. It was almost like a bit of a joke, to be honest. And then it started looking good, and we're like,
it was supposed to be like, the album cover was supposed to be like a kind of quirky family portrait.
Yeah, it's like an old school family portrait kind of vibe. And I think like something as well that we're trying to get across to more people is that behind the scenes, even sometimes not behind the scenes, we're all like pretty ridiculously kooky, humorous guys. And even though the music we make sometimes has like a tone of seriousness, there is an underlying humor to sort of everything that we do. So we don't want to take things too seriously, because music is fun.
But it's kind of funny because like the result of the photos, like if people who don't know us would think that we're like completely serious and in those photos.
Maybe, but I mean, yeah.
But like to us, it's this like underlying joke that we're just like, we look so stupid in these photos. But it's kind of like, it's kind of fun. Yeah.
It was mad.
That's really interesting, because also it came out as to be, I guess you could say, experimental. Because there was this one photo, I think it was like holding a glass, and just in the middle, it was just the hand holding the glass, and it was for one of the songs.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
You guys were just playing around in the studio pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly what we did.
We had this idea of like there being this kind of full picture, but then all of the artworks, the singles, because they were coming before, there would just be like little bits of the picture so that you kind of don't know what you're looking at. And then by the time the album came out, you can see like the full, the whole theme together in all its different forms. So.
It's pretty cool. Let's see. Wait. Well, one of the songs that we also thought was really interesting was Other Designs. What made you do more of an instrumental chorus on that one?
Things just sometimes happen as they happen. I mean, you can't force the process. Like, oftentimes you'll be making a song and then you'll be like, okay, so by the book, this should be a chorus, but then you'll try to do something chorusy on it and it just doesn't work. And you have to like allow the song to sort of become its own thing. If you try and like format every song to have the same like structure or sections, it just doesn't really work that well. I mean, it can.
Flow with the.
But yeah, it's just like sometimes you just got to let things sort of flow as they happen. And I think a lot of people sort of critique our music to say that it's a lot about the music, but it's also a lot about the space in between the music as well.
Mm.
And I think that's still something that we do like, that sort of like minimalist nature sometimes, because sometimes things are very busy and sometimes we like them to just be super stripped. It just depends.
Mm. But in answer to the question, I think if you're going to have an instrumental chorus, it needs to be something that's unique. And for us, we felt like that song, the sounds were weird enough, and like that it was genreless enough to go without any lyrics in the chorus. Like we felt like it still held our attention without vocals, and so it just made sense. But with that said, we always also imagined there being like a rapper or something coming in, so we might find someone to like do a rework or something. We're still kind of
a quick remix.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the album was pretty experimental. Another question I just randomly thought of, what is your perspective on the genre per se, alternative?
It's so broad. It's like anything. It's like anything that's like not pop, basically.
Yeah.
What is the new name we came up? The new genre we came up with?
Oh god.
Oh, it was good. We came up with a new genre for ourselves. It was ridiculous, but I can't actually remember what it was called. Talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
It was something super ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Mm.
But yeah,
I
like
mean,
alternative.
Yeah.
I like
Alternative. I feel, yeah, I totally agree. It doesn't really define anything nowadays.
No.
It really
Yeah,
does.
it just means like something that hasn't been done too many times before.
Pretty much.
And
You
in a
listen to
weird
it
way,
now.
it's become something that is done. So then it's confusing.
Yeah, genres are pretty dangerous, I have to say, because especially these days, there's so much mixing and matching between genres. It's kind of like a fool's errand to try and pigeonhole something, because you're only going to upset yourself when they release something that's different to what you thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, shit.
I think everyone has a different idea of what the genre defines. Which is
Genre
the most
fluidity.
annoying.
Yeah, well, that's so true. Like, my girlfriend's mom was telling me she really likes techno, and I'm like, really? You like techno? And she's like, I love techno. I'm just all about techno. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna just play you this one track and just to confirm, like, this is what you're talking about. And when I played it to her, she's like, what is that?
Oh.
That's techno. And she just thought that, like, super house music was techno. I'm just like, no. So, yeah. Genres are just...
No one quite
It's confusing.
No one gets it really.
Yeah.
So, in other words, there was a lot of experimenting in the process of the album.
Yeah, I think we just don't really have any like set genre that we listen to, and so one day we'll be like, man, this is a sick tune. Let's like draw inspiration from this, and like that mood that you're in can just go into the track, and it doesn't have to be, oh, because this has like a house beat in it, suddenly we're not allowed to make that. No, like for us, it's like whatever sounds cool at that moment. That's the whole point of the name Tora now. Like what we're feeling in that moment is what we're gonna make, and we just put it out. And some people either like it or they don't. But yeah,
It's amazing. So, at the end, I always ask two things. One is, what are you guys currently listening to? Which I feel like it would be everywhere. Because you guys listen to everything from what I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We actually have a few playlists on our Spotify, which basically shows what we're listening to because we run those. I guess we all kind of have our own playlists. Some of them are mixed playlists, but the best way to get a vibe of what we listen to is just to go to our Spotify and go through some of our playlists, I'd say.
All right.
Yeah.
And
There's
then,
a lot.
and then lastly, I always just like go through all these comments and see if anyone asked anything. There was one, I think somebody asked, what was your favorite song from the album? I feel like that's a hard question, but if you guys want to answer, feel free.
Different.
It's different for
Different
each of
every
us, pretty much as well. And yeah, I don't know if there's a collective
It's
favorite.
it's kind of like asking someone who's your favorite child. Like they're your baby, name them all. And I'd say I love them all personally.
Well, you love them all on different days. It's like you might love one more this day, but yeah, as Joe said, it's like it changes, I think.
Yeah.
Because some songs are very receivable very quickly, and then other songs kind of grow on you a little bit later down the track. So it's forever changing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Extremely.
Pleasure.
Once again, love the album. I will be listening to it nonstop for the rest of my life. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
you so
taking
much.
the time to have us. And yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you. Have a nice
We're
day.
gonna Yeah, you too.